Jonathan, I need help. I'm losing track of all my tenants.
How many tenants do you look after?
17 tenants. No, 8. In fact, I think it's 19 tenants. I'm gonna have to buy a whiteboard for the wall, just so I know who's who.
Mike, you're growing. That's impressive.
No, it's chaos. I've got sticky notes all over my monitor. Me and my engineers, we work out of an Excel spreadsheet called Master Tenants. Underscore final. Underscore use this one. Already this morning, I've deployed the wrong password policy to the wrong company. Twice.
But Mike, Microsoft do give you some tools to help you manage multiple tenants.
Yeah, I know they do, but there's bits of information here, bits of information there. It's a little bit like trying to assemble a jigsaw when half the pieces are under the sofa.
Okay, I think I see what your problem is.
All I need is one place, one portal where I can see what's happening with all my customers. Otherwise, my brain is going to turn into a Teams background.
Well, Mike, I think you're in luck because in today's video, I'm going to introduce you to 3 companies who make managing multi-tenants in Microsoft 365 much simpler. I'm going to talk about Enforcer, Nerdio, and SIP. Each one of these has their own strengths. Plus, I'm going to give you a brief demo on each solution.
Sounds like just the thing I need.
If you're an MSP, you'll know that managing multiple Microsoft 365 tenants can get complicated pretty fast. Every customer has their own environment, their own security settings, their own licensing, and their own way of doing things. Now, Microsoft do provide some tools to help with multi-tenant management, tools like Lighthouse. But there's no single centralized platform that gives you everything in one place, with the depth and the flexibility that many MSPs need. That is where third-party solutions really come in. These platforms are built specifically for MSPs, just like you, and they bring together security, policy management, reporting, and alerts across all of your customers in one dashboard. Now, in this video, I'm going to introduce you to 3 companies who each take a different approach to this challenge. We've got Enforcer, Nerdio, and SIP. I'll walk you through their key features and give you a quick demo of each solution so you can see how they work in practice. First up, it's Enforcer. Now, the team behind Enforcer are actually from the MSP and the RMM world. So they've built this solution on top of Microsoft with the day-to-day realities of managed service providers in their minds. Their focus is on deep policy alignment, AI-driven insights, and granular control across tenants. Let's take a look at Enforcer. So here's the Enforcer homepage, and there's a lot of good stuff that I can show you. First, as an MSP, all your clients will be listed down here. Plus, you can tag your customers, and these tags are fully controllable by you, the MSP. You can create your own. Then there's the baseline that this customer is following. So as you can see, Enforcer includes some of its own baselines. We've got the CIS one here. We've got the Cyber Essentials. Plus, as an MSP, you can create your own baselines. If I just hop over to Policy Library, you can see the baselines that are included in the Enforcer product. Back to the homepage now. The alignment score, so how this tenant aligns to the baseline. Plus, Enforcer pulls through the secure score. And you can see that Enforcer also backs up the policies and configurations every day. We can also go further into this customer, and it gives us more information on the tenant itself. We can log into the admin portals. We can look at lots of secure score recommendations, and we can drill down and we can see the remediation steps. Come out of there. Also now, we can look at the backups. We can restore from here. And also, we can now look at Entra ID settings. We can look at the total users in a tenant. We can drill right down to find information. What about compliance issues? No problem. We can look at all these here. We can click into these and we can get all the information we need to protect our customers. Plus, there's some security risks down here. So, for example, in this tenancy, there's 18 users without MFA. As an MSP, I want to know who those 18 users are. No problem. I can just drill right into there and I get my list of users. Coming out of there, perhaps the biggest part of Enforcer is the tenant alignment. Now, as I mentioned earlier, as an MSP, you can have your own baselines, and I've got my own baseline here. So what this screen is showing me is how this tenancy aligns to my baseline. And if I scroll down, you'll see all the policies here. Now, lots of these policies are aligned, which is good news. But if I go to the top of the screen, you can see that some policies aren't in the aligned tenant. For example, this one here. This is recommended from the baseline. Now, at this point, it might be good to mention that Enforcer has now put AI into its product. And what this will do is give you a summary, give you some user impact warnings, and tell you more features. So at this point, what I can do, I can accept the deviation. Maybe this client doesn't want or need this policy. Or I can go ahead and I can align it to the baseline, which will create that policy. And this feature is quite intelligent as well. If I go onto this one here, we can see that Enforcer has looked and it can see that there's a policy in this tenant that has the same features, but it's just under a different name. So what I can do, again, I can just rename this to the baseline to keep everything uniformed. Now you can see at the top of the page, there's more work to do. Enforcer has identified that there's a policy in my customer tenancy that's not in the baseline. So I can view the impact via AI. And it tells us that there's a name location in Entra ID for Algeria. Now, it might be that our customer has an office in Algeria, which is fine. We can simply accept that deviation against our baseline. Or if it shouldn't be there, we can delete the policy from the tenancy. But what we can also do with tenant alignment in Enforcer is report this back to customers. Here's a report that I've generated. It's fully brandable, so you can put all your logos on. And you can see we can send these lovely reports to our customers. There's a couple of other things that I'd like to talk about. If I go to deploy, I can deploy multiple policies to multiple customers at any one time. So I've got a customer who needs to be aligned to CIS really quickly. I simply go into here, I click on next, and then I can be really granular. I can choose the entire section of Entra ID if I want, which is 37 policies, different conditional access policies. If I decide that I don't need one, I can just unselect it. Again, the AI, we can look at the impact. And once I'm happy, I'll just close down there. I will choose all these sections. I can click on next. I can choose the tenancy that I want to deploy or multiple tenancies. And I can go through and I can deploy these settings. I can choose additional settings. It is that easy. So as you can see, Enforcer is a great tool to manage security for multiple tenancies in Microsoft 365. That's just a snapshot of what Enforcer can do. It's built with MSP workflows firmly in mind, and the AI policy insights really set it apart. Next up, it's Nerdio. Now, Nerdio started life as a virtualization company, focusing on Azure Virtual Desktop. But over time, they've expanded into Intune, Windows 365, and Microsoft 365 tenant management, giving MSPs a unified way to standardize and automate policies across all of your customers. Let's take a look at Nerdio. This is Nerdio Manager for MSP. You can see that all my clients are listed here. I can easily add clients, either manually or through Nerdio's integration with the Microsoft Partner Center. I can then click into any of my customers. And once I'm in the customer portal, you can see that I can manage many aspects of Microsoft 365 right from within here. We've got Intune, policy management, all can be managed within Nerdio. Let's just go back to the main screen now, and let's talk about something called solution baselines. You can see there are lots of baselines already in Nerdio. We've got Defender for Office 365, Enter ID, Intune. What we can do is create our own standards. We can configure our baseline. And here's some examples of what we can do. Things like letting group owners add people outside the organization. As an MSP, we might not want that to happen to any customers. So we can set this as enforce, or we can report only, or if this doesn't really matter to us, we can exclude it. We can then go through each portion and we can create our own baseline. We can do this for all the main features of Microsoft 365. We can then assign this baseline to our clients. Perhaps as an MSP, you've got clients who need different levels of security. There's no one single solution baseline that you can apply. Well, that's easy with Nerdio. You can simply clone this baseline and you can create as many as you can and then assign them to clients. Now, what you can also do with these policies is assign them in report only. And if we go to the status overview, you can see we've got a couple of clients in report only now, and we can see the status. Take this client, for example. 11 out of these policies are green. That means we're happy. But there's one issue with this client. I can simply click on View Details, and it'll tell me exactly what the problem is. Now, maybe for this client, we're quite happy with how it is, even though it's a mismatch. So what we can do is simply accept the drift. We can put an expiry on this drift, all from within the Nerdio platform. Now let's take a look at policy management within Nerdio. As you can see, you can manage all aspects of Microsoft Intune policies and profiles right from within the Nerdio platform. We've got conditional access, compliance policies, configuration profiles, update rings, even Defender for Office 365 policies. Let's take a look at conditional access, for example. What Nerdio allows MSPs to do is create a conditional access policy just once, and then you can import it into Nerdio. You can then use those policies on as many customers as you need. If you're just getting started with Microsoft 365 security, Nerdio gives you some very good conditional access policies to help secure your clients. What's more, Nerdio also backs up your policies right across Intune. So if anything changes, you can always go back to a previous version. But as you know, there's lots of policies in Intune, and it's great that we can import them all into Nerdio and then use them with our clients. But that can still take time. That is where Intune policy baselines come in. We can create as many policy baselines as we want, and we can include multiple settings across Microsoft Intune that we can easily deploy to our customers. As we talked about previously, you can manage all of your customers from within Nerdio. That means your techs don't have to log into Microsoft 365 admin centers. They can do everything they need to do within this platform. Take, for example, Microsoft Intune. All the devices are listed. You get the device details, you get the join type, plus you get a nice little interface to show the health of these devices. But Nerdio goes even further. You can do so many things from within this platform. You can sync it with Intune, you can restart, you can run scripts. Plus, Nerdio has something called Console Direct. Yes, you can remote control devices from this platform. Plus, you can manage applications with Nerdio. There's a full catalog of applications. Nerdio leverages the Winget repository, but you can also upload your own private applications. So as you can see, Nerdio is a comprehensive tool for managing all aspects of Microsoft 365 for your clients. Nerdio's strength is combining deep Microsoft 365 management with powerful automation and standardization tools, all from one place. And finally, there is SIP from Cyberdrain. Now, SIP is a comprehensive management platform for MSPs working with Microsoft 365 and Azure. It was created out of a frustration with the tools available at the time. So the Cyberdrain team decided to build what they thought the industry truly needed. Let's take a look at SIP. So this is the SIP dashboard, and what you can see here is the executive summary for this tenancy here. Now, as an MSP, you can easily switch across all of your clients by clicking on this drop down and choosing the client that you want to administer. Now, as you can see with these options down the left-hand side, you can administer most aspects of Microsoft 365 using the SIP platform. Let's dig a little bit deeper. We'll go to identity management, administration, and users. This will list all of the users in our organization. If I go over to actions, you can see that I can do pretty much anything with our user administration. We've got so many options. Plus, we've got this really handy offboarding wizard. So if a user is leaving one of our clients, we can use this wizard to save some time. We simply select the tenant, click on next, select the user, click on next. And then we get all these options. All we have to do is toggle the options that we want. We can handle all the permissions and the mailbox access. We can even set an out of office, all from within this one screen. And perhaps a user isn't leaving just yet. Perhaps they're leaving at the end of the month. No problem. We can simply schedule this. Once we're happy, we click on next and we simply submit it. Now, it's really important that we manage the Microsoft 365 security for our clients. But that can be quite tricky when we've got multiple customers and we're using multiple portals. Now, SIP makes this process a little bit easier with something called drift templates. We go to tenant administration, standards and drift, and standards management. We choose templates, and I can create a new drift template. Now, drift templates, as it says here, provide continuous monitoring of a tenant. When you set up a drift management template, your MSP is automatically going to receive email alerts every hour about the tenants that are not aligned to your best practice. I give this a name. I can give it a description. And then I choose what tenants that I want to include in this standard. And then I start adding the standards to my template. Now, as you can see, there are 147 standards included with SIP. I can filter these by different categories. So let's have a look at Exchange. We can see the standard and the description, plus these tags are very useful. This standard, for example, aligns with CIS and NIST, and it's got an impact. Now, what I can do is simply toggle this to add this standard to the template. Let's choose another one. This time, have a look at global standards. Again, we'll choose this one here and toggle this on. Let's now look at something like SharePoint. Toggle this on. And once I'm happy that I've added all of my standards into my template, I simply close out of this. But then we've got to configure them. And this is where SIP gets really clever. We can automatically remediate or deploy when drift is detected. So when we start monitoring a tenant for a customer, if this isn't in place, SIP will automatically go and remediate it for us automatically. Once I'm happy, I click Save. Let's have a look at this standard here. Again, we can automatically remediate. Plus, we've got some options. This is the recommended setting for DMARC. Click on Save. Look at the SharePoint one. Automatically remediate. Again, we can choose the settings. Once we're happy, click Save. And once we're happy, we can simply click on Save the template. As you can see here, it's automatically run every 3 hours across the tenants that we've chosen. Plus, it's going to automatically remediate based on the settings that we've chosen. This is going to secure your client. Plus, it's going to save your MSP so much time. So now you know there is multi-tenant support for Intune, Microsoft 365 Security, and even Windows 365. Now, each of these providers takes a different approach, and my advice is simple. Evaluate them all, test them, and choose the one that's the right fit for your business and your customers. Thanks for watching.